What's going on, guys? Elliot here, apartment bartender. Recently got back from a trip to Patagonia with a super awesome spirit brand named Tricol that you may or may never heard of. Regardless, I'm going to tell you all about it in this video and give you a little insight into the trip. Let's get after it.
Let me tell you a tale of Patagonia.
So Tricol is a really interesting spirit. The reason being is it's not only a spirit category of its own, but it's also a brand. So that's the equivalent of like a bourbon saying not only are we a bourbon, but our name is also bourbon. And Tricol, the reason why it is both, and it's dichotomous in that sense, is that the FDA classified it as its own spirit. So if you grab a bottle of Tricol, which they're gaining national distribution and they're growing, expanding, as you grab, like when you grab a bottle, it says a spirit distilled from apples and pears with natural flavors, right? And so one of the things that was really unique about being in Patagonia, not only just at the distillery, but being around town, like we went off the grid, and I'm gonna dive into like a little experience about that, but we went off the grid, and one of the really unique things about the spirit is that as you're hiking, you are literally smelling and experiencing like the flavors and aromas of the spirit, because it really is, the spirit really is distilled with natural flavors and herbs and spices from Patagonia. So there are wild grown apples, so there are apples, there are pear varietals, and everything in the spirit is found within the region of Patagonia. So it is uniquely, is very unique to that region. And one of the things that's awesome about it, like for this, just to kind of touch on like how I would mix with it, you know, the thing that I would equate it to most is like a gin or a brandy. That's kind of what people say. But it really is unique. It really is, it has its own flavor profile. And so I really advise trying it. One, because it's not easily found. I mean, if you went to a spot, you probably would have a little bit more difficulty finding it, but I think there's something really unique about that you really have to take a little bit of an extra step to find the bottle and find the spirit. And as they expand, you're gonna be able to. But if you were looking to mix with it, you know, it mixes really well with fresh fruit, you know, any berries. It mixes really well with tonic. It mixes really well in place and substitute of things like gin. So think about a Negroni, you sub out gin and you replace it with Tricol. So classic cocktails that incorporate gin, you know, you can sub in for Tricol, but I like to keep it simple because it's such a unique spirit that if you overcomplicate it, sometimes those flavor profiles start to clash a little bit, and I think the spirit is unique enough where less is more, in my opinion, where you can really let the spirit shine. But what was also really awesome about the trip, not only the spirit and learning about that, but actually experiencing the region. Believe it or not, I have never camped in my life. I've never slept in a tent. The extent of my camping experience was going to a place called Campland on the Bay when I was, I think, 12 years old. But we rode up with a trailer and it had showers and stuff. So it really wasn't camping. It was kind of like more glamorous camping and stuff. But in this case, we really were backpacking, we were hiking, we were going 10 miles up, just steep inclines on kind of unbeaten paths. And it's one of those places where if you wander off from the group, there's a solid chance you might not come back. But all in all, to say, like, the experience of being there and seeing it, I mean, Patagonia is one of those places where, for me, and what I felt I experienced was total surrender. For me, being in social media, for me being and having a digital career, it's so hard for me to disconnect, and it's hard, especially owning my own business, where it's always on your mind, right? And so Patagonia was the first trip and first place I've had in a while that it doesn't adapt to you, like you adapt to it, and it's actually harder to maintain connection. It's more of a pain in the butt to try to stay online than it is to just let go. And that was really special for me because it was the first time even being on like a press trip or a brand trip where I really had the opportunity to let go and just be present and experience what was going on. And I think that was so crucial to understanding Tricol as a spirit, because in order to understand the brand, get to know the production process, taste it in cocktails, right? It's kind of, I don't want to say an easier process, but understanding and getting to know the brand is one thing. But being in Patagonia and we're on the Chilean side and being in that area, there's just something about being there where you just get it. Like, it's kind of hard to explain and it's kind of hard to put into words. And I think it sucks putting it into words and kind of trivializing it. But I think with all the video content and stuff that we captured, my hope is that it shows a little bit of a glimpse into what the trip was like and what the spirit of Patagonia is like. Just because, again, like it's one of those areas where, and I don't experience this that often, where you stop and you look around and you are in complete awe of what you're seeing. You look around and you feel small, and that feeling of smallness is not a bad thing. Like, you're just kind of, it's something that's pretty rad. I did enjoy sleeping in a tent. I'm kind of bougie if you haven't caught on by now. But all in all, the trip gave me a fresh perspective on everything. It gave me a fresh perspective on what I was doing. It helped me to take a step back and reset, and really just helped me to dive into a spirit that's really unique. I got to know the spirit when I first moved to Denver. So they launched about a year and a half ago at this point, or a little under 2 years, and Denver was the first place that it launched. So when I moved to Denver about a year ago, or less than a year ago, I met a buddy of mine, Ben Long, who works with the brand, and he introduced me to Spirit. We became friends. He actually took me on my first hike around Denver, and I've only been on one hike since I've lived in Denver, which will show you how outdoorsy I am. But that's how I got to know the Spirit, and it was really cool because on this trip it was more about, hey, we want you to come down, we want you to experience the region, we want you to experience the brand, and it's more so establishing relationships and establishing that connection with the brand, which is really special for me. And it wasn't like, hey, document everything, but just naturally being a creative, I'm going to document it anyway. But that's how I got to know the spirit of Tricol. Being there, tasting it, seeing the production process was amazing. Experiencing the land, the people, and just the experiences that we did. Definitely challenged a lot of the things that I thought I could do, and it gave me, again, a fresh perspective. But all that to say, like, that was my experience in Patagonia. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would go back in a heartbeat and climb 10 miles up a steep incline and camp in the middle of nowhere and be completely off the grid, and that's what I love. But hope you guys got something out of this. Hope you got some more insight into the spirit of Tricol, and definitely be on the lookout for it. It's really unique, it's really special, it's at a special point in its journey, and I think things like this are really what remind me why I do what I do. So appreciate you guys, appreciate the support, more things coming, excited for what's to come. Have a lot more stuff coming up, including a trip to St. Lucia to teach you a little bit more about rum down there, and some other special stuff coming up. So again, appreciate you guys. I'll catch you soon. All right, later.